These projects are designed to cultivate multiple skill sets that complement a series of videos created for the purpose of acquiring a foundational knowledge of the Python programming language. These projects will cover coding both console-based and GUI applications. tkinter is a Python binding to the TK GUI toolkit, and its framework is built into Python's standard library, so it does not require the installation of any additional modules. This makes tkinter a convenient choice for building graphical interfaces for Python applications. All source code in these videos is available at the 1 byte at a time GitHub repository. You will find a link to the code used in each video beneath it, in its description and comment section. You may use these links to download the source code.
This Python project will give you practice using iterables, lists, objects, arrays in Python. And there's two basic configurations of list objects we'll go over. Multidimensional list objects and parallel list objects. All right, so parallel arrays and multidimensional arrays are both very effective and efficient ways of manipulating key value pairs. So you might have certain keys and certain values associated with those keys, and you may want to maintain a relationship in a database, or a project. So using a parallel set of arrays or multidimensional arrays can be a very effective way of doing that. So this is just a quiz game type project, and we start out and we present the end user, the player, with a menu. So we run through a while true loop and we look for these values. Do they want to take the multidimensional 2D array quiz or the parallel array quiz? And then based on their selection and our decision structure here, we just go call the right function based on their choice. So let's take a look at setting up a parallel array or set of list objects in Python. A parallel array, all right, or parallel lists maintain a vertical relationship. So we have 4 separate lists here, but they each maintain the same relationship within them. So we enforce that as we go from list to list. 1 is a list of questions. 2, a list of answers. 3, a list of clues. 4, a list of empty strings to hold the player's input. But this question, right, most lethal maneuverable dogfighter America ever made, corresponds to this answer, F-14 Tomcat, which corresponds to this clue, when jet fighters meow. Who was the harbinger of death that actually saved humans in silence? That's our next question. Corresponds to this answer, Starbuck. Corresponds to this clue, Apollo's BFF. Okay, so they would be indexed in a subscript fashion or value of, element 0, element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4. So 5 elements, but remember that fenced post issue with lists and arrays, it's off by 1. We don't count from 1 to 5, we count from 0 to 4. There's still 5 elements, but they're indexed or subscripted as 0 through 4. And that same relationship exists vertically in each list that maintains our parallel relationship. So that's how we would set the data up using parallel list or parallel arrays. Then what do we do? We'll clear the screen, start a while true loop here. X starts out at 0. That's the first element in the array. From our questions list, Python list, we'll display the question. All right. Then our user's input list and the same subscript value. So we're maintaining that vertical relationship, right? Element 0, element 0. We take the player's input, convert it to lowercase. We don't want them to have to worry about whether it's capitalized or not. Let's not make it harder than it needs to be. So all our answers will be lowercase, and we'll convert what they type to lowercase. See if it matches the answer. You said we just echo back to the player the input we got from them, what they typed in. We're going to compare. So the user's input, what they typed in, if it is not equal to answers, again, remember that vertical relationship in parallel arrays, then, okay, they got it wrong. So it's not equal total wrong guesses, we'll increment it, add 1, and wrong per question count, we'll add 1. If the wrong per question count is less than max wrong guesses, we'll tell them, hey, sorry, that was wrong. We'll give them a hint from the clues list, and we're going to decrement x, the value of x here. If we decrement it, that has the effect of rolling rolling back to the previous value of x. See, x is incremented down here at the end of our while true loop, which causes it to go to the next question and the next question. But if they get it wrong and they have not yet exceeded their maximum number of wrong guesses, then we'll decrement it, which will effectively keep it from advancing to the next question. It'll hold them into that question until they either get it right or exceed the maximum number of guesses. So the decrementing works with the incrementing here and here. You see how that works? So otherwise, if they have exceeded the maximum wrong guesses, we'll tell them, hey, you've exceeded the maximum wrong guesses. Sorry, Charlie, and move on to the next question. The other possibility, if they didn't get it wrong up here, then in this, the outer else, they got it right. So we'll increment score, right count, and our Boolean guessed it, which was set to false when we began this function, will be set to true, okay? Then we'll display the values, total wrong guesses, wrong question count, right count, and then we have a compound statement here. We're testing if, and we're using the logical or. Remember, and means both sides have to be true, or only one has to be true. So if they guessed it, they won, or their wrong question count is greater than or equal to maximum wrong guesses. If either one of those is true, we need to do a couple of things. We need to reset our Boolean back to false, and we need to reset our wrong question count. We don't want to continue on to the next question and say they got 2 wrong guesses. Well, if we don't reset this, then they're only going to get 1 guess for the next question. So we have to reset it, right? But the reason we had to use that Boolean, we can't do that up here. Like you might be wondering, well, why don't you just reset the wrong per question count here if they win, and here if they exceed the maximum wrong guesses? We could do that, but we'd have to do it twice. And the problem is we're displaying the values. So if we reset them before we displayed these values, then let's say that they got, they used up their maximum number of wrong guesses, 3 guesses. Well, if we reset it up here and then displayed this at the end of that question before they go on to the next one, instead of their, wrong per question count being 3, which they should see, they would see 0. It would be confusing in the output because the player would be like, well, huh? I thought I got 3 wrong guesses. How is it that you say I only have 0 wrong guesses? So we need to do that after we display the values. And so that's why we use that Boolean. And that way also we only have to do it once, okay? And then again, as we iterate through the while true loop, we'll just advance to the next question and answer and clue and player's input list object and store it in the next element in each of those. So again, we're maintaining that vertical relationship. Each of those lists has a relationship that directly corresponds with all of the other lists, and they maintain the order or integrity when you set it up that way. We're just going to multiply score by 20, so we'll have some sort of a grading system. We can assign a letter grade based on 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and we'll end the quiz there, okay? So that's how parallel lists or arrays would work. Now down here is a multidimensional array or list type object. And here we have, again, some of our variables outside of our loop because we either want them to remain constant or we want to accumulate values irrespective of our loop as it iterates. To set up our multidimensional array, those 4 list objects, we can achieve the same result with a multidimensional array, in this case a 2-dimensional array, and we just can nest basically a multidimensional array is just an array of other arrays. Okay, so a list object that contains other list objects. So Q and clue and A is a list, but it itself contains nested within it other list type objects. And instead of a vertical relationship, you could think of this as sort of a horizontal relationship in the way that it's coded. All right, so every element, if we were to cycle through the index subscript value, it would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 lists stored inside this outer list. And for each inner list, we have 0, 1, 2, 3. So 4 elements indexed 0 through 3. And we maintain the same relationship. 0, the first element of our inner list, is always going to be the question. And then 1, the second element, will always be the answer. And then 2, the third element, will always be the clue. And then 3, which will be the fourth element, will hold the player's input, right? What they input for the question. So notice how it can be a very powerful and efficient structure. Being a 2D array, it's doing the same thing as these 4 separate list objects up here, these arrays. But look how condensed, uh, how efficient it is that this one list object, array type object that nests other lists, other arrays inside of it, it can achieve the same results, okay? But the way we access things, or the index subscript relationship, is a little bit different with multidimensional arrays. So in this case, because it's 2-dimensional, we'll have 2 subscript values here, 2 sets of square brackets. We could have a 3-dimensional array or a 4-dimensional array, and if we did, it would have 3 or 4 sets of square brackets and subscript values. But we'll keep this one simple, down to 2 dimensions. So this works. X starts out at 0. We cycle through a while true loop while x is less than the length of q and clue in A. And that's the outer. The length would not be returned based on the number of elements of the inner list objects or arrays. It will simply be returned on the number of list objects contained in the outer list object. So in this case, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 elements indexed 0 through 4. All right, so we started at 0, that's the first element. And the way we get at the value, the subscript, the way that it works, x, which is 0, and 0. So that's the first inner list nested inside of our outer list, and then the first element of it. So that's the question. And as x changes and we increment it and go through our while true loop, same thing, right? We would, x 0, 0 would be this question. And then 1, 0 would be this question. 2, 0, this question. 3, 0, this question. 4, 0, that question, as the value of x changes. You see how that works? Same thing, we convert the player's input to lowercase. And then in this case, where we store it is the last element, the fourth element, but indexed with a subscript value of 3 in each of our inner lists. So as x is changing, but this will remain the same. It'll always be the last element of the inner list nested inside of our outer list object. We'll compare, did they get it right? Did what came in, the answer, if it's not equal to what the player typed in, right? The second element and the fourth element will increment total wrong guesses, wrong question count, or wrong per question count. If wrong per question count is less than the max wrong guesses, same as in the parallel quiz example, we'll simply display, sorry, that was wrong. Here's a hint. And again, we decrement, and that is to hold them in that question. If we didn't do this, if we didn't decrement the value of x, it would just move on to the next question down here when it increments the value of x to iterate or move to the next question. So if they didn't get it right, but they haven't exceeded the maximum number of wrong guesses, we'll give them another chance. And we do that by decrementing the value of x. So it sort of cancels out, this increment down here, keeps it from advancing to the next question. Otherwise, if that's not true, they've exceeded the max wrong guesses. And, guess was correct is set to true. We'll increment score and right count. Again, we have to display it before we reset the values. Otherwise, the information would display improperly, hence the use of the Boolean here. So after we display it, not before, but after we display the values, then we can reset them. Then down here, we'll just multiply score by 20, and the same thing, we just sort of produce a letter grading scale, okay? So let's run through this, and we'll look at some possible basic scenarios here. The first one we'll try is the parallel array quiz, and all this code is on GitHub, so you can download it from GitHub. But Let's get 2 wrong here. So QWERTY. And then notice, okay, it counts. Total wrong guesses 1, wrong guesses for current question 1, total guesses answered correctly 0. Press enter to continue. All right, it decrements and it asks me the first question again. All right, so I can get it. I'll get it wrong a second time. Total wrong guesses 2, wrong guesses for current question 2, questions answer correctly 0. Okay, and then let's do F14. All right. So my last try, I got it right. Okay. So my wrong guesses for the current question were 2. My total wrong guesses are 2. Questions answered correctly is 1. And now watch. If I hit enter, it advances to the next question. So who is the harbinger of death that actually saved humans in silence? So if I can get that one right on the first try, I got that one right on the first try. So total wrong guesses is still 2 from question 1. The wrong guesses for current question is 0 because I got it right on the first try, and questions answered correctly. Even though it took me 2 guesses on the first question, I got it right the first time on the second question, so it's 2. So what about the condition if we get them all wrong? Okay, so QWERTY 1, QWERTY 2. All right, so total questions answered correctly 2, wrong guesses for current question 2, and total wrong guesses 4. And notice the hint. There's our hint relationship. One thing I don't know why doesn't even matter how hard you try. It's Lincoln Park, but what if I get it wrong a third time? All right. Unfortunately, you have exceeded the maximum number of guesses for this question. Moving on to the next question now. And again, we are accumulating or keeping total wrong guesses, max wrong guesses for current question. I used them all up. I didn't get it right. I've only got 2 correct so far. And look, it advances to the next question. Sci-fi novel by Isaac Asimov that introduced 3 laws safe. I'll get it wrong. That's 1 wrong guess. Okay. And I get it wrong again. That's 2 wrong guesses for the current question, but 7 total. And then let's do, if I get it right the third time, hey, I got it right. Okay. So total questions answered correctly 3. Wrong guesses for current question 2. I got it on my third guess. Total wrong guesses 7. And then our last question. Quantum theory that allows instantaneous FTL communication over any distance. Entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Okay. All right. So, and we'll display our score. List array quiz, our parallel list array quiz complete. Our score was 80. Got at least 4 right. Our grade is a B. Okay. And now we can move on to the multidimensional 2D array quiz if we want to. So I'm going to choose that one. We'll do the multidimensional array quiz. Enter to continue. El Dia de los Muertos. It's not the answer because I think I did it in English, but we'll do Octubre. We'll get it wrong. That was wrong. Okay. Let's try our second one. That's it. We got it right. Total wrong guesses is 1. Wrong guesses for current question 1. Questions answered correctly 1. Enter to continue. Favorite game? Let's get one right on the first try. Descent 3. Okay, got it. So total questions answered correctly 2. Total wrong guesses 1. Wrong guesses for current question 0 because we got it on the first try. Best sci-fi series ever made. Oh, definitely BSG. But let's get it wrong. We'll say, what's another sci-fi series that Babylon 5. You said Babylon 5. That was wrong. Here's a hint. Frack off, Cylon, which is a popular saying in BSG. But if not Babylon 5, Star Trek Voyager. Wrong guesses for current question is 2. And let's get it wrong on our third shot. Our third shot will be Earth 2. And in this case, okay, so unfortunately we've exceeded the maximum number of wrong guesses. Total wrong guesses 4, wrong guesses per question 3. We used up our last guess. Total questions answered correctly 2. I hit enter and I go to the next question. Music. Get it right the first time. Go to the next question. Popular vacation destination. Florida. Nope. And nope. But look at our hint, right? Our hint relationship. John Man on the beach. I don't know if, just whatever, trying to drop a hint there a bit. So if they ask again, oh, I spelled it wrong. Well, anyway, so I got it wrong. All right. So wrong guesses total 7. Wrong guesses for question 3. Total questions answered correctly 3. And then I hit enter to continue, and it grades me. I got a 60, and grade was a C. And then I will exit the loop. Okay. And again, the code for all these projects is hosted on GitHub with links in the description below each video. So if you want to download the code, load it up in Visual Studio and go through it, modify it, customize it, do your own thing with it, feel free.